Johan wanted us to look at British American tobacco. And I mean, technical analysis, and I know a lot of people don't look at graphs, and they're just, they're fundamentalist, and they just look at financial statements. But we cannot ignore the fact that British American Tobacco warned with that double top formation there around January 2018. And when that double top formation took the share to lower prices, nobody could believe it. And yes, the news were there, the ban, when America raised the ban on menthol cigarettes, it definitely obviously sparked more selling pressure. But when sellers start to sell a share, or buyers start to buy a share, there's certain formations and patterns that develop that can show what the informed capital is thinking about the share. And that double top formation, and we know there's only a couple of formations that are warning formations and patterns on graphs: a triple top, a double top, and a head and shoulder formation. And that double top took the share to lower levels. However, when the shares started to change this trend line that weighted at around 459 Rand 33 into a support, it reached for higher levels. Now, last week's candle is a clear hammer candle. Now, a hammer candle either is hitting out new highs or hitting out new lows. So you can only make a decision on a hammer candle based on the next candle. And this candle is an inverse hammer candle, which tells me that that upper shoulder tells me that there was a little bit of selling pressure, but it can either again hit out new highs or maybe prepare the share for lower levels. British American Tobacco is obviously a little bit overbought at the moment because of the rise in the share price, but there is still a lot of range for upside on the share. The 40-week moving average is only waiting there around 602 Rand 41. And technically, when the share starts to trade above 526 Rand 28, we can see higher levels on the graph. And below 508 Rand 70 on a weekly close, I'll be a little bit concerned about British American Tobacco. Vodacom. Sarah wanted us to look at Vodacom, and this share has really been struggling, and it's struggling to get above that lower band of the consolidation band. And ever since June 2018, it's just been flirting with the levels up and down. And this lower band is waiting at 117 Rand 30. And the share needs to trade and remain above that for us to maybe consider this consolidation band as optimistic. The 40-week moving average is waiting at 126 Rand 47. And I want the share to start to trade above 190.94, which will confirm this more possible morning star formation that we spoke about last week. And it needs to find more buyers here. It is extremely oversold. My stochastic indicator is pointing upwards. And let's just maybe explain these two lines on the stochastic indicators. This blue line represents a shorter moving average, and we don't want to go into too much detail, but that represents a smaller moving average, and the red line a longer moving average. And when the shorter moving average crosses through the red longer moving average, it normally hints to buyers that there might be a buying opportunity. That for the short term, the sellers are drying up, they're moving away, and that the buying power is becoming more fierceful. So interesting enough, this lower band is the key for Vodacom. It needs to remain above that 117 Rand 50. There's still a lot of scope for upside on Vodacom, still a strong company, but the graph looks good as long as it remains above that lower band. Klerk Petroleum is a share listed in America on the New York Stock Exchange. And I want to look at that because there's a beautiful possible cup and handle formation that is in the making there. I mean, this share traded around $17.84 in December 2016. And look how beautifully the share found support there around $5.96. Found resistance, retraced, and this week's strong bullish engulfing candle tells me that the buyers is getting stronger. Now, the cup and shoulder formation will only be confirmed when $8.54 changes into a support. And above that level, we can see the share maybe reaching for the 40-week moving average. But below $17.15, maybe first a little bit of downside. But this optimistic cup and shoulder formation is maybe something to have a look at. And I'd want to look at the Brent oil price at the same time, because we cannot look at oil companies and not look at the Brent oil price. And yes, that inverse head and shoulder that was visible, and I maybe just want to draw in the neckline here, that was played out and confirmed, tells us that there's maybe more upside there based on this dragonfly candle. This dragonfly candle with the long lower shadow tells me that the buyers were prepared and were strong enough to lift the share price to higher levels. Yes, it is a little bit overbought on the technical indicator, on the stochastic, but there's still an indication on the candle that the share can reach for higher levels. My concern for Brent oil will only be below $64.27, but above that real body around $66.97, we can maybe see higher levels on the Brent oil price. There's an inverse head and shoulder on Barrick Gold. Now, Barrick Gold is listed on Toronto's exchange as well as the New York Stock Exchange. And there's an inverse head and shoulder formation that I want to highlight there. Now, we've previously said that the head and shoulder formation is a warning formation, but an inverse head and shoulder formation is just the opposite. It's an optimistic formation. And this inverse head and shoulder formation has got a left shoulder, found resistance on the neckline, a massive head, found resistance, and it's got a multiple right shoulders. Now, technically, that optimistic inverse head and shoulder would be confirmed when the share starts to trade above that neckline. And that neckline is waiting at $13.71. And above $13.71, this share can reach for higher levels. Yes, it's trading above that 40-week moving average, which is fantastic. And that 40-week moving average is $12.32. How do we determine our targets for an inverse head and shoulder formation? There's various ways you can do. I'm going to take the most conservative shoulder, and in this case, it's my left shoulder, and take the length of the left shoulder and project it upwards from the neckline. So this inverse head and shoulders conservative target is $14.63. And the full target of the formation is the head of the share price or of the formation, and that can take the share back to $17.74. Now, we know any listed instrument doesn't move in one line. It moves in parts and in cycles. But this inverse head and shoulder formation is an optimistic formation and tells me that the share can reach for higher levels. When does the formation becomes obsolete? When it starts to trade below a right or a left shoulder. And in this case, the right shoulder is the lowest shoulder of the two. And technically below $11.77, the optimism of this formation is off the table. Telkom is the next share that, not sure who asked us to look at Telkom. But Telkom, interesting enough, I mean, when this 40-week moving average changed into a support there around October 2018, this share just flew. And I mean, ever since then, it reached for higher levels. But interesting enough, it is extremely overbought on the stochastic indicator. It's trading above a 90 zone here around 91, which tells me that the elastic band of this share is stretched to a side. So it either needs to snap, in other words, it needs to pull back and take a little bit of a breather, or it can even reach for higher levels. So how do I identify the levels? It is either support or resistance, and that is waiting there around 71 Rand 17. So if the share starts to trade above 71 Rand 17, we can see higher levels on Telkom. My first sign of weakness would be here below 67 Rand 23. But interesting enough, I want to change this to a daily graph, and I just want to show our viewers there, on a daily graph, this share maybe has a double top formation. Now we know, I've said previously, that a double top formation is a warning formation. So I just want to draw that double top formation. Look at that left side, it found support there, rose again, found resistance, and that double top formation would be confirmed when the share price trade below this level around 66 Rand 50. The negativity or the pessimism around that formation will become obsolete when 70 Rand 16 changes into a support again. But with this overbought indicator, this might be a nice share to short. So technically, you can short below that 66 Rand 50, stop loss 70 Rand 10, and I mean there's various support levels to the bottom that you can use as a target to trade this Telkom share. And yes, for our speculators and our traders, don't be greedy in this market. I mean, we didn't think that this market would reach and start to trade above the 40-week moving average, and it did. But the key to success is don't be greedy. Take your small profits. We always use the example of a cake. Nobody can eat a whole cake every day. You will get sick. But if you have a slice every day, you will gain weight. So if you want to stay in the trading game, my suggestion is to take a slice every day, because you will gain weight and you would be surprised at what your account will look like at the end of the day. Anglo-American has just, I mean, when this share started to rise for higher levels, it just flew. And around December 2018, it was flirting with the 40-week moving average, and it wasn't sure whether it needs to change and keep it as support. But when it started to find strong resistance above this red line, which represents the 40-week moving average, it just reached for higher levels. Now, this is a strong dragonfly candle, which tells me that if on a weekly graph, this share wants to reach for even higher levels. My first sign of weakness for a trader will only be there below 363 Rand 93. But as long as the share trades above the 379 Rand 03 on a weekly close, it can even reach for higher levels. Now, just to put it into perspective, if we zoom this graph out and we look at a longer period, I mean, this share traded around in June 2008 around 555 Rand 92. So there is still a lot of leg for upside. But if we zoom in and we look at a shorter term period, we can see that this share is extremely overbought, which means the probability of a breather, the probability of a pullback on the share price is likely. Please feel free to send us any questions for next week's show. Have a fantastic week. Speak soon.